everyone, and good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to the faculty seminar on alternative assessment strategies for authentic e-learning. This is the third of a series of monthly webinars organized by the Faculty of Education in relation to our faculty CPD program on authentic teaching, learning and assessment strategies for ODL, which the acronym has Atlas for ODL. And on behalf of the Faculty of Education, I'm very happy to welcome all of you, and especially Dr. Sanjay Mishra, who has very kindly agreed to conduct today's webinar. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Sanjay Mishra to you in a few words, though I'm sure many of you know him very well. And he has been a close friend of the Open University since 2001, I believe. Dr. Sanjay Mishra is one of the leading scholars in open distance and online learning. And he's currently serving as the education specialist e-learning at the Commonwealth of Learning, or COL as we all know, in Canada since 2015. Prior to that, he has served as the director of SEMCA, program specialist at UNESCO Paris, program officer at SEMCA, and in different capacities at the Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. So he possesses a lot of qualifications, undergraduate qualifications in science, library sciences, and several postgraduate qualifications in library and information sciences, distance education, and television production, and Doctor of Philosophy in Library and Information Science as well. And with over 25 years of experience, I think maybe more than that, in design, development, and management of open and distance learning programs. He has been promoting the use of educational multimedia, e-learning, and use of open educational resources and open access to scientific information around the world and in over 30 countries. And his association with OUSL has been very long, since 2001, as I mentioned, when he first organized the workshop on developing multimedia courseware for distance education. When he was at SEMCA, it was organized. And then later in 2003, the regional workshop on e-learning, again in collaboration with SEMCA. Both these were very significant at OUSL because they initiated integration of multimedia courseware to course material in our programs, as well as e-learning and online teaching and learning at OUSL. And afterwards, again, one of his initiatives, OER-based e-learning project, and which was held during 2013-2014, where we were involved, and currently the CDELTA, Commonwealth Digital Education Leadership Training in Action program, implemented since 2018. So we have been very collaboratively working with Sanjay over the years, and personally I'm very happy to be associated with all these innovative initiatives of Sanjay. So he has received also several awards, including the ISTD Vivekanand National Award for Excellence in Human Resource Development and Training, the Indian Library Leaders Award, Professor G. Ram Reddy Social Scientist Award for his contributions to distance education and OER. And I'm happy to say his CDELTA project has been selected as a finalist in the Falling Walls Science Breakthrough of the year 2020. And we wish good luck with that as well. And he has contributed over 200 publications in books, chapters, journal papers, and so on. And his newest edited book, I would like to show, it must be in the other way around, but it's the most recent book published, Technology-Enabled Learning, Policy, Pedagogy, and Practice, which talks about 17 case studies of technology-enabled learning initiatives of COL. Most of things are initiatives of Sanjay, as I personally know. So we are very grateful to you, Sanjay, for accepting our request to share your thoughts with us today on this very significant and timely topic on alternative assessment strategies for authentic e-learning. May I now kindly invite you to commence the webinar, and thank you very much. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Professor Sironika. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And it's always a mutual admiration of working together on various innovative projects. Thanks for the best wishes on the Sea Delta. I'm crossing my fingers though for this award. Nevertheless, the activities that are being done at Open University of Sri Lanka is quite encouraging, and this faculty seminar series that you have started is really interesting, and I'm so that more would probably join. At the outset, I would like to thank every one of you for having joined this session and waiting to start this session. As it was planned to have been started at about 9:30, we are a little delayed, so we will extend the time today so that we have enough time to have a discussion. And I would now, at this stage, I would like to share this my screen to continue with the presentation. And as Professor Sironika talked about, the presentation is on alternative assessment strategy for authentic e-learning. Essentially, during this pandemic situation, most educational institutions, not just open universities or distance teaching institutions, most institutions face this challenge of assessing students. How do we evaluate students? And one of the major reasons for not being able to respond to this situation was that we were not prepared to offer alternative ways of assessing student learning. And mostly what is being talked about is that the nature of assessment has not changed. Even though open universities and distance learning institutions are quite progressive and have adopted new means of teaching and learning, assessment still remained broadly the same timed 3-hour test kind of stuffs, pen and paper test. It didn't change. What I'm going to share today is, this is my plan today. I'm going to talk about a little bit of what and why of assessment, focus on issues in particularly when we are doing online assessment in the context of what is authentic assessment, what are the different types of assessment, how can we design authentic assessment, and we would like to have some question and answer at the end. I've designed this session in a way that we'll be trying to make it more interactive. We'll give you opportunity to interact in breakout rooms in the Zoom to discuss issues based on my presentation, and then you will come back to talk about the issues that you encounter. We have designed this session in a way that we understand that you are deeply engaged in the process of assessments and you have a lot of experiences to share with all of us. So given the time constraint, we will see how best we can streamline the whole process and get the best out of the experience that we can have with this remote or online engagement. In a way, we can see that this is an example of how synchronous learning sessions can be organized online. So we have tried to emulate the best possible ways to make it more interactive and engaging. So at this stage, before I actually start this session, I would like to request you, if you are online, open another window on your browser using www.menti.com, and you will go, when you go there, you will use the code 6833598 to answer answer a question there at this stage. I'm going to change my screen so that we can show the results there. I hope you are able to log in to menti.com and use the code 6833598 to respond to this question. Describe 3 words that come to you when you talk about assessment. Can anybody? Yes, we are able to see the results now. Some of you have already been responding. Thank you very much. Keep typing, and you can see what's going on the screen at this stage. What are the things people are talking about? Most people are talking about, okay, when you talk about assessment, we are probably evaluating students. The next one comes to grading. Grades, assessment, of course, and you see what are the things coming. Most people talking about standards, okay, quality, okay. I think that's quite interesting, and we are all looking into this continuous assessment. Some people are learning outcomes, focused on learning outcomes. Feedback, some people have also talked about feedback. Grading definitely is a major issue. Testing, of course, is an issue. Some people are also talking about minimum standards. So okay, at this stage we can stop this, and some of you can continue doing that, and we can go back to the main presentation at this stage. Okay, so that's quite interesting. I have not stopped that test, but those of you who are continuing to do, you can continue to do the same. But from this sort exercise of collecting other people's ideas, what we understand is that when we talk about assessment in our own context, even if we are working in the same institution, we are not talking about the same thing. We have different understanding of what is assessment is all about, but broadly the notion is same, because we have all as students ourselves has gone through the whole process, so we know what it means. But in the literature of assessment, there are 2 important things that are talked about, and we need to focus on these 2 important things. One is the assessment of learning, and the second one is assessment for learning. Okay, assessment of learning is mostly considered as a summative process, that it happens at the end whereas assessment for learning is a formative process which is done to help the student to learn in the process. So you can say that some of the continuous assessment tests that are done could be treated as assessment for learning, whereas the term and examination that is done normally could be considered as assessment of learning. Okay, means that in the assessment for learning, mostly what happens is that we are providing feedback to the learner, so the learner grows and improves, whereas assessment for learning setting standards and particular standard or quality or not. So some of these things that when you acted in the test, you talked about these issues. The newest thing about there is about assessment as learning. Now, how can we also use assessment as a process of learning? So we can do that, and many a time the new age technological based learning systems focuses on assessment as learning, where you actually develop mastery learning through undergoing a process of repetitive tests and answer, question and answer, and you do practice doing tests again and again. Through practice, you treat test or assessment as a learning process to achieve mastery learning. So in overall, even though we have different ways of looking at assessment, broadly, assessment should not be looked at as something that we want to prove something that a student has done well or not done well. The purpose of assessment is actually to improve rather than to prove it. So even though we use assessment as something that is, we use it as differentiating students from who are the very good students or who have done very well or who have not done well, but the overall objective in terms of educational philosophy, the assessment should always be to improve and not just to prove. In that context, and when we really look into assessment as what would be an authentic assessment, if you are looking at assessing from different perspective, how can you look at assessment as authentic in contrast to assessment that is not authentic or that is not as realistic as the real life practice of the learners or the working environment of learners? So the main issue here is that authentic assessments are broadly realistic, and realistic that requires judgment, what students actually doing things, mostly practical things, and which are more related to personalization of the learning process. So what are the real issues in terms of authentic assessment? We work in context that are multiple issues are there, not just authentic assessment and how do you do the authentic assessment, but we have large number of students, particularly in distance learning institutions, and we also have issues related to timely delivery of results. We need to provide feedback to students if we have a continuous assessment area. We also need to look at students' workload, teacher workload, and the most important issue that really affects all of us is the reliability and validity of the assessment task. And it's always good to talk about alternative assessment, but do we have the capacity in the institution, including do we have technologies to use alternative assessment or alternative authentic assessment? I think needs to be discussed both at faculty level and institution level before actually adopting to newer practices. And these are the issues where the conventional phase two institution, including open distance learning institutions, were not in a position before the pandemic to think about. And this is the situation that we need to really think about. How can we improve assessment practice in our institutions as a reaction, even if we take it as a reaction to the pandemic, but it's actually going to improve our assessment practice in our educational institutions. So what are the different types of assessment that we use in conventionally in our educational system? We use long answer type questions, we use short answer type questions, we use different objective type questions with single choice, multiple choice, matching type questions, fill in the blank, true and false. We also use home assignments, which is mostly written assignments. We also used a time test, particularly in entrance examination and other things where you test the speed. We also sometimes use group test when we ask students to have in the group learning scenario. There are some tests that also happen within the learning management system. There are also practicals, skill-based courses where we do tests in the practical scenario. And of course, many times these days are talked about online tests, particularly certification examination of big software companies are done online. And many times they use a term called proctorial assessment online. So some of these, a range of assessment are available. A range of assessment are available for us that we can really make use of for our examination assessment situation. At this stage, I would again request you to go back, go to menti.com, and I will stop sharing and show another example where we will be taking another tests, another question at this stage. So if you are online, going into menti.com, you will, at this stage, you will see another question. It says, what type of questions, tasks are predominantly used in Open University of Sri Lanka for terminal examination? So please go to menti.com and type 6833598 and give your response to this question. What type of questions, tasks are predominantly used in Open University of Sri Lanka for terminal examination, not continuous assessment. So the responses there are short answer questions, long answer questions, objective type questions, practical, portfolio submission, project report submission, and we are getting responses. So keep doing. We will continue for a few moments so that we get a broader understanding of what's happening. So predominantly long answer type questions. Of course, there are practicals. Of course, short answer type questions. Project report definitely comes also as in most of the postgraduate level courses. Project is an important aspect. So keep typing, keep responding to the question. So good response. Thank you very much for responding. Broadly, if I can see that long answer type question followed by projects, practical, short answer type questions. So keep doing this. I'm not going to close this, so we can have these results towards the end. I can capture this and send it to Professor Sironika for record. So I will stop this sharing now on Menti. I'll go back to the main presentation and continue. So this gives a broad idea about what is going on. I would also suggest those who have typed on others type of test, I would request those people also to type on the chat box of what kind of tests they think are already they're thinking they are being used, so that we get an idea about those tests. So I'm going back to my PowerPoint presentation at this stage. So what are the alternative assessments? Now, we saw that what are the traditional assessments that are being done? What are the alternative assessments that we could make use of in our teaching and learning, both online and offline? I have a brief set of examples that I can share, and I'll give clear examples from my own practice that I have done in past several years. So you could do, if you are using a learning management system online, you could use assessment of participation of your learners in discussion forums. You can use your learners in groups for peer assessment. You can use online seminars. You can use synchronous sessions like this to have students present their findings on an online seminar. You can ask, particularly in computer science, you can ask students to have online a project where we create an assignment and project submission system by which this system automatically alerts evaluator based on their profile, and it creates a loading system by which the evaluators are not given more projects or more assignments, and ultimately the evaluated assignments also could go to a online repository. So this is something that can be practiced in today's system. We also dabbled with evidence-based learning practices in 2018. 2008, by which we actually used Wiki Educator as the platform by which we asked people to develop self-learning materials and evidence doing practical tests of completing certain tasks and then getting certificate. And the whole process was peer reviewed, and peer and tutor feedback was inbuilt in the process. So this could be treated as an example of what we say that a formative evaluation process as such. In 2010, we launched a postgraduate diploma in e-learning, which was completely OER based online. We didn't develop course materials. We used available open educational resources, but there we used practical training as assessment and grading. So we used a little bit of blended learning practice, asked people to come to a practical session and then make use of as an examination term paper presentation to supplement term paper as assignment. So some of these practices have already been done. We also used portfolio submission in a master's in distance education program as part of process and assignments and continuous evaluation. We provided rubrics and guidelines so that learners can develop skills through self-learning or self-skilling approach, and develop digital practices, document it, submit it for assessment. And that was the assignment or alternative to assignment as continuous assessment. So these are some of the examples that I wanted to share. At this stage, okay, just to make a little digression, I would go to stop the screen sharing here, and I will actually go to a test. So at this stage, I'm launching few questions for you to yeah, I can right now. So at the I have launched it already. Yeah, you should. Yeah. So please question, and I think some people have already responded. Before we break into the groups. Wiki can be used effectively for group discussion, assessing collaborative work, writing skills. And as we can see, most people are giving responses on assessing collaborative work. Okay, I'm stopping this, and I will go to the next poll. So blogs are excellent ways to or for what? Assessing communication skills, for summative assessment, or research skills. I will go for 1 minute. So assessing communication skills, summative assessment, research skills. Great. So most people said assessing communication skills. In fact, this is a trick questions. I just kind of played with it. We can also use blog as research skills. So it's not that the 32% who said research skills are wrong. You can also use it for summative assessment, but broadly you can use for communication skills. Another quick one. Audio and video assignments can do what? Make it difficult for learners to plagiarize, help make learning fun, make assessment authentic. "90 seconds, 20 seconds, I'll go for 60 seconds. Make it difficult for learners to plagiarize, help make learning fun, make assessment authentic. Good, thank you very much. And most people are talking making assessment authentic. We can use this to avoid plagiarism, but that's probably not our goal. When we use audio and video, of course we can making audio and video will be fun, but would also it's challenging and difficult. Okay, last polling question. Okay, so peer assessment. Oh, so many people have really responded. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think many of you are able to see this. So yeah, now I have. I have the technologies for assessment. I think those of you who are using learning management system, they know that the learning management system includes certain features that can be used, but there are other softwares that are open softwares that can be used, like TC exam is something that can be used for exam. E-exam software, which comes as a bundle for using in learning management system, particularly for Moodle, developed in Australia, is available open source that can be used. There is a lockdown browser called Safe Exam Browser. Again, this is open source available that can be used for online examinations for students. So if you are using Moodle, Safe Exam Browser is a very good example to be used for online examination at a low cost and low, or else you can actually use your own system, create your own. So designing authentic or alternative e-assessment, there are some key things that I want to highlight. If you are interested in designing authentic alternative assessment system, I think it's important for you to look at few issues and few steps. The first important thing is what is the outcome behavior that you want to assess for the learner. Does it require a practical lab? If it requires a practical lab, then you are not doing it online. You still you need a physical lab to be done to do the test. Okay, but then if it is being done, you can do it. You don't need a lab. Can it be automated, or do you have the technologies to do online learning? Do your students have the tools necessary to use online assessment? So you need to think about those. The next thing that you need to think about is, do you have continuous weight of continuous assessment versus the terminal test that you want to use? Can you change the weight focus so that you can focus more on formative assessment rather than summative assessment? There are some 70%, and the determined assessment or the summative assessment constitute 30% of the assessment kind of an approaches. Do you use a learning management system for course delivery? If yes, from the learning management system that you use for continuous assessment. Okay. And last but not the least, now you need to consider authentic assessment as alternative to terminal test. Not just do anything you want to do, but play really more realistic, where student is doing something and not repetitive and not regurgitating what they have learned in reality. So learn in theory, but actually you will be doing in practice. Okay, so if you are clear about some of the things, then you will be in a position to better create authentic tests. And most of these authentic tests are these days are useful, particularly for science subjects in like nursing or health sciences or business and management, education, where more practical skills related activities are there. You can actually develop more and more authentic, realistic, practical to-do kind of activities. There are lots of other resources available. But before we go into the resources and all those things, I would suggest groups at this stage. I think that groups have been created in the June session. I'm not sure how it will work, but we'll give a try that I have created here. Some of you are aware of scenario-based learning things. So what online assessment strategy will be used in the following scenarios? Group 1 will look at learners gain skills by building progressively complex actions from component skills. Group 2 will look at learners actively construct new ideas. Group 3 will look at learners actively construct ideas by building and testing hypotheses. Group 4 will look at learners develop their identities through participation in specific community of practice. These are 4 scenarios. You can use these scenarios in any discipline for that matter. We are not talking about any specific discipline purpose. I'm giving the tasks, typical type of task that can be used for assessment purposes. So if you are looking at group 1, what will be the different types of tests that you could include online? Okay, so smartphone, just capture this screen so that you don't have problems when you are discussing in the group, because to you when you are in the group discussion. Okay, of course I will try to move into the groups so that I hope you are able to see this screen, and you can capture this screen on your mobile so that you can have discussion in your respective groups. welcome, colleagues. Apologies, the breakout room probably didn't work because I went to 3 breakout rooms and I think discussions were not happening. And I realized that it may be due to communication gap or the technological failure or anything. So the overall, I would like to share something and just to end the close the sessions to talk about. Um, you know, we talked about these things, but broadly, the 4 different activities that I used here comes from a source called Authentic Assessment, which is published sometime back by JISC, JISC from the UK, and you can look at that as there are 4 different types of learning perspective. One is when you make connections from different components. So one small component of learning builds on to the different components to make a complex learning. So you build an association of learning on that. And you use assessment to know that students are in a position to connect one bit with the other bit or not. And in the process, you provide them feedback for learning. So formative assessment becomes very important. The second is a constructive approach where you look as learning as achieving an understanding. Okay, here assessment could take the different types of experimentation, inquiry-based tasks, and exploration, and so on and so forth. The third example is social constructivist approach, where collaboration becomes more important, project works, participation in discussion forum, exposition becomes very important. And the fourth kind of learning situation is that which is more situative, more experiential, based on social practices, and this is more scenario based kind of situated cognition kind of learning assessment, and this is a scenario where you can really look at the more holistic assessment, more authentic assessment can be built in these practices. So these are 4 different ways I actually borrowed exercises so that we could have had more discussion. I wish we had more time to discuss, and some of the technological limitations created hindrances today. I would suggest you to also look at a lot of resources available. There is a site called Authentic Learning. If you click or go to Google and search Authentic Learning, you will find a site called authenticlearning.info, which is a huge resource. And there are lots of articles, examples available on authentic learning, authentic online learning that you can actually build on for your own particular situation, particularly in the field of commerce, business management, engineering, technology, health sciences, nursing. There are a huge amount of examples available from real practical areas which you can actually adapt in your own teaching and learning. Some of these are also available as OER for making use. So with this, I would stop today, and thank you for your patience being online, struggling with the technological glitches and challenges. I hope these things will become less and less as you proceed, and I'll be happy in future sessions to join you again.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjay. I think the participation is very good, I think, because this is very timely at this moment, because our university is now thinking very seriously about going to more and more alternative assessment strategies, especially in this current situation. So I think your presentation, your webinar today is very useful for everybody to think about a lot of alternative strategies in assessment strategies. So thank you so much for all your very interesting and insightful presentation.